next slide, we're just basically going to run over what we have for animal response with regards to CERT. Our objectives, as you see, it's basically your responder, you as a CERT responder, your safety when encountering and handling animals out in the field. We'll run through some of the animal operation procedures, and then in the end, just talk about for your personal pet preparedness. Though I will say that ready.gov site that was talked about before, a really good site for you to do your own planning. You can do it online, and you can actually tailor a whole plan for your family and print it out. So it's really kind of cool. It's a really good site. So CERTs being out in the field, you are definitely going to encounter animals. And as you can see here, 67% of US households, there is some kind of animal in the household. And in your search and rescue operation, you're definitely going to meet up with a few of them. So I think when you're looking at pets and the impact with the people in disaster, you know, a lot of it goes back to Hurricane Katrina, because as stated before, a lot of people refuse to leave with their pets, or those that left with their pets were spending time sneaking back in so they can get their pets. So there were a lot of secondary issues that occurred during Hurricane Katrina when people could not evacuate with their pets. So that's kind of when the Pets Act was enacted after that. And as that was enacted, we saw later on, you know, the basis of it is if you're told to evacuate, you will bring your pet with you. Now, each of the groups or responding areas, of course, need to figure out how they're going to accommodate that, but they've been slowly working on that for the last decade, and things have definitely gotten better. And if you look at it with regards to the comparison of Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Harvey, as you see between these two here, people, they went with their animals, things went a lot smoother. We heard from other first responders what a big change between, you know, 2005 and fighting with people trying to leave, you know, without their pets, where in 2017, leaving with their pets, everything was just went a lot smoother with regards to people getting out and people actually evacuating. So it went rather well there. But as a CERT, you really need to understand how to be safe around the animals. So your safety is number one when out there. And you're not out there really to rescue the animals, you're out there to help with the people, but you have to be aware of any animals that could be around and what's going on before you might even start any of your CERT tasks. You need to do that. So again, why CERTs train in animal handling? So that when people are evacuating, we know what's going on there. It also helps reduce the trauma from both an animal perspective, but also the human perspective. It's a lot less stress when they know they have their animals with them. Following the disaster, you know, abandoned, stressed animals, that creates other secondary risks for responders. And again, like talking with Katrina, there were people sneaking back in, trying to rescue their animals on their own. And just some of them created secondary disasters in regards to that. So we had disasters within the disasters on there. And you never know with pets roaming freely what's going to happen with regards to that. So the whole thing with the animals is the pets matter because the people matter. When you're out in the field approaching an unknown animal, you're really looking at either a non-aggressive friendly animal, you're looking at one that could be aggressive, or you're looking at a frightful animal. So when you're coming up against one that's non-aggressive, what you want to do is size up that situation. What is your objective? What it is you want to accomplish? And basically you're looking at the whole thing, a house coming down or house on fire, something going on. House on fire, you're looking at going, you know, you're not a firefighter, you're not going into that house, so you can see what you could do from the outside, you won't be going in. But when you're looking at something where you are able to go into the house, you need to look at whether or not there's an animal involved. So you're going to look around to see if there are maybe bowls of water or food being left out. And this is really specific in talking about dogs. The last thing you need to do is run up to try to help an owner who could be injured, and a dog comes around the corner and does not know who you are, and you're over their animal. So really, you want to secure that animal before you get to that owner to assist them. So again, the non-aggressive animal, what you want to do is really see if they'll come to you. That's the best thing. Instead of going to the animal, see if you can call them to you. In the class that we did on Saturday, I was trying to show a lot of people how to use a slip lead. And hopefully all of you will have a slip lead in your kit. So when you're calling an animal towards you, you can use the slip lead so that you can at least get control over that animal. You want to assess whether or not you can contain that animal, what your team size is, but more importantly, who's more comfortable around approaching animals that are not aggressive and working with the animals. So you kind of want to pick who on your team is going to be doing what. And you always want to think about too, how are you escaping from there with those animals? So really, as you're approaching them, you want to be relaxed. Don't be staring them down. Be confident. Use soft, calm voice. My mom likes to say, use baby talk. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on the animal. But as long as you're soft, you're not raising your voice, you're just talking to them, not a problem. And again, don't try to reach out. Try to get them to come to you. If you happen to see treats available, maybe utilize treats to see if they'll come. What you don't want to do is, if they do start coming over to you, to kind of loom over them or try to grab them by the collar. That's why you have a slip lead. If you try to grab an animal by a collar, you are going to get bit. So the slip lead keeps that safety down in front of you there, so you don't have to do that. Think about approaching them, looking at your body instead of a frontal approach. Approach them from the side, just sidestep towards them. And again, the slip lead to control the dog, or using a towel or a pillowcase to pick up a cat. I was showing some of you how to do that with of course, a very accommodating kitty, but I've used that with real cats myself. Works well. You do want to make sure you always have gloves and eye protection on for yourself. Wherever you can protect yourself, that's what you want to do. And once you do have that animal, don't be squeezing or really have a tight control on the leash. What you want to do is just have use as little restraint as needed. Just a little bit. You don't need to be forceful with those animals. If that animal turns out to be aggressive, you might be dropping that leash or lead, or putting that cat down, and just let them go on their own. If you are coming across an aggressive animal, don't even bother. Just document what's going on at that house and safely move on to the next one. You never want to turn your back on the animal. Just kind of calmly back away from that situation. This I like this one, and how to greet a dog. And this was a printout that I got from Dr. Sophia Yin. And if any of you Google her, you could probably get a copy of this free, unless, I don't know, Margaret, I think we might have these up on the website.
Yeah, I think we do have it on the website. Yeah, that's why I just let it be there.
Yeah, it's really nice, because it gives you an idea, how would you react if some stranger was approaching you or doing things to you. And it kind of gives you an example of that's how the dog's going to react. And so they also show you better ways of how to do that approach and what you want to do. So I always like that presentation there. Approaching an unknown animal, again, a frightened animal, really, unless you know what you're doing, don't do anything. Basically, think of it as an aggressive animal. Don't really approach unless someone's around with you. You're going to move slowly. Again, try to get the animal to come to you and see if you can get a slip lead on it if it's a dog or another larger animal. But the aggressive animals, stay away. You want to stay away from those. Approaching and crating a cat. If the owner hopefully has that cat, you can stand the carrier so the door's up. So if you're holding the cat, you are putting that cat down into the carrier. You're not trying to shove them in sideways. You want to go down. That's the easiest way to do it. And again, have your gloves and goggles just in case. You're going to have hopefully that towel or a pillowcase where you're holding that with the cat. You know, it kind of shows you in one fluid, it talks about one fluid movement, but you're just wrapping them like that burrito. And if you're in the class on Saturday, I was kind of showing you how to wrap them in as the burrito, or using the pillowcase to get them into the pillowcase instead. So, and then there talked about the alternate with the pillowcase. So really easy. So once you have the cat in the pillowcase, this is Lisa from Concord CERT. She was helping me out. This is a cat. We were at my sister's house doing the demonstration of my sister's cat. So Lisa's never met my sister's cat before. So she just took a pillowcase, called the cat over to her, wrapped it around her. Excuse me. And you can see how she kind of picked up the cat and continued wrapping it. Just really easy pulling that cat up. So, and if you don't have the carrier, same thing. That cat's never been shoved into a pillowcase before. And that was the first time. And again, she was just there on the couch, checking out to see what we were doing. And Lisa just slowly came up, used the pillowcase around her, picked her up that way, and was holding her. Really easy way to go. Using the slip lead, again, a pre-made slip lead. Not all of them have a band that you can use on them, but a slip lead is the best thing you want to do. A 6-foot one is what I recommend. I think some of the items in your bags, excuse me, wasn't coughing until I started talking. Some of the items that you have, no, I'll see if I can push through it, Margaret. Thank you. What you want to do is make sure you have a 6-foot slip lead. And that allows you to make that larger loop or lasso to get around the dog. The 4-foot slip leads just don't give you that much. They're great if you know what you're doing, but when you don't, it doesn't give you a little extra safety. Having that extra 2 feet with a 6-foot lead. So what you're doing, you're just making that loop large. So you're slipping it over the dog's head without having to bend over it. You're just kind of standing next to it and putting that loop over, and then just pulling up on the leash to bring it in. Very easy to do. You don't want to pull it hard, but you can see Lisa, again, demonstrating. She was pulling that loop out. She's showing you how she's holding the end of the leash with her thumb and closing it up. So she has that on her hand, how she's holding the handle of the leash. And you can see where she had the big loop, again, where she was going towards the one dog. This was a foster dog. And again, calling the dogs up, putting it over the loop there. And then you can see in the middle on the bottom how she's holding the leash, where one hand is kind of above the dog, and then you can see where she's holding the handle. So you're really controlling the dog with as you see it, with her left hand, and she's holding the leash in her right, the handle of the leash. So they ask that you don't use a slip lead on a puppy or a very small dog. But, if you need to get control of that animal, that is what you have. That's what you have. And it's the only thing you have to do it unless you're able to pick it up. Never tie the dog to an object especially with the slip lead, because that's just what it is. They'll just slip right out of it. Don't leave them unattended. So that means think of your team. If you've got an animal and you need to contain that animal, it's either someone is having to be there holding that animal, or maybe you were able to walk that animal over into a crate or another room, so then you can finish what you need to do as your search and rescue duties. Move on from there. So that's really good. What you don't want to do is let the dog pull really hard, because they may damage its throat. So again, you're talking to the dog, trying to keep it calm. And as I stated before, if that dog really becomes so frightened and it's trying to pull back with its neck, just really try to let the lead go, and you're leaving the dog behind. And again, a frightened dog could be a biter, so you want to be really careful about that. Now, what we want to do is make sure that those pets that, if we are bringing them in, they're going back to their owners when everything is said and done. So Walnut Creek CERT has a method of ensuring those owners and companion pets are identified together. And the one main thing we have is the identity band that I was showing in Saturday's class, that all you have to do is write down the address of where that animal is coming from, or if it was outside and it was the corner of Buena Vista and Gary Road, then you're writing corner Buena Vista and Gary Road. At least it gives us a general location where the animal may have come from. And then again, you're completing your documentation. Never forget that. It's always, everything that happens has to go into your documentation. You're bringing a pet in, you're leaving a pet behind, you're bringing the owners in, leaving the owners behind. You are documenting everything there. Transporting. So hopefully pet owners already have preparations for alternative care for their pets should the need arise. So think of it as disaster preparedness for that one. And hopefully you as a CERT, both the owner and the CERT driver have to feel comfortable and safe in transporting that pet in the driver's private car, if that's how we're doing it. And again, if that pet is left behind, we're documenting what's going on. One good thing might be is maybe if someone's coming in and you have that friendly pet, you're checking in with them to see if there's someone who is staying in the house or a neighbor who might be able to check on their pet instead of bringing them in. So if we are transporting animals, you want to make sure the crates are of adequate size. And really only one crate per animal, unless you have a mother and the babies, then they would go together into one crate. Keep in mind the weather and whether or not, especially in the summertime, that you have the car running with the air conditioning going on, because that is going to be a quick way to kill an animal, leaving them in that hot car. Cats, no matter what, should always be in some type of carrier. They should never be loose in a car. And if need be, the dogs could be tethered, if not in a crate, but not with a slip blade. You will want to have a regular leash to try and tether that animal down. And I think that just talks about the warning, if you're transporting the pets in the hot temperatures, what it's really going to feel like. Search markings, just like for people, there's also search markings that you can do for the animals, and it goes into that same spot there. So you're just looking one dog, one cat, as you can see here, what's going on.
Erica, let me just break in, folks. When you get to the light search and rescue unit in a couple of evenings, you're going to learn that if we assess as a team, let's say your home in your neighborhood is safe enough for us to enter. We hear somebody calling out for help. They're asking us to come in for help, and the structure is safe to go in. We use rescue markings to identify that we've gone into a home. We always document what time a team went in, what they encountered, whether there were victims inside or animals inside, and the search team and the time they entered and left. You'll learn all about this, but Erica's just saying we're going to document animals found as well as people.
Yeah, and we have our communication forms as well that we would do our documentations on. So, animal inflicted injuries. So if in your CERT duties you are injured by an animal, you're going to stop and you are going to take care of yourself. You want to get that injury taken care of, rinsed out, cleaned up before you do anything else. And especially in the case of a bite, you definitely want to find out the make sure you have that information that you can from the dog, the address, where it's from, because we're going to want to follow, a follow-up might be needed in regards to rabies shots and whether or not it's up to date, because otherwise you could be going through some pretty not so fun shots to fight against rabies, just in case. If you're facing an aggressive dog, you can try basic commands such as sit, stay, or down. Think of something you could put between you and that animal. And for most of you, the one object you might have on you is what?
On the morning of the 18th, are they going to get a pack?
I don't know. If they are, yep,
they are.
Your CERT backpack. Okay, so your CERT backpack would be the best thing. You can pull that off, have that in front of you, and get that distance between you and the dog. And again, back away, don't run, because if you turn and run, you just became prey. And that dog just might take a nice little chunk out of you if you're running away from it. So I think I already went through that one. Personal pet preparedness. I think the only things you can see what's here. The only things I can add is maybe having a buddy system. You want to think about, if you're not home, how are you going to have your animals cared for? What are the things that you can do to have someone come over and get your animal for you if you can't get there, if you're not home. Make sure you've got kennels, food, think of the medications that you need. I think that's really something you want to think about, that ready.gov, that will really walk you through what you need to do. And they do have a section in regards to animals in there as well. And I see a question about something like pepper spray. I don't think as a CERT you're going to be having pepper spray on you. That's not something you're going to carry as a part of your CERT duties, Margaret. I don't think we allow that.
No, we don't. I mean, you're gonna identify part of the size up when the CERT team comes to a home and there's clearly somebody that needs help. That team's going to do a size up. And if one of the things that they're identifying is there is an unfamiliar, unfriendly, frightened, or aggressive animal, that means we're not going in there. That means that what we're going to do is we're going to identify this home as needing higher level help. But we're not going to even enter and put ourselves in that situation.
Yeah, it is a good question. And quite frankly, you can try using something like an aggressive dog or on an aggressive dog pepper spray. What you might do is just make them that much more aggressive. Generally, with animals on the loose, that's hopefully a call-in. If there's something dangerous in the area, then you are going to escalate that up through your leadership. Just follow your ICS, think of ICS and who it is you're reporting into, to say you've got a problem, especially if there's an aggressive dog on the loose that's out in the area there. So again, your safety's first. So very good question. If that animal's on the loose, you want to get that radioed in, find out what it is you need to do, and then basically you might have to back off from that street if you can't get there at all. Your safety comes first. So, Morgan, I didn't know if there was.
No, so I think just as people are thinking about their plans, they have to know where they're going to evacuate with a pet. Most shelters now will have some accommodation, whether it's next door or
Yeah. So I know, Margaret, you kind of talked about me and disaster response. So myself, I've been a part of a CERT since 2008 and really getting a focus with animals starting in 2009. And I can tell you now, with what I've done in this last decade plus, is work towards what we have going on, not just in this county, but getting certified in a total of 6 counties in regards to disaster service worker, being a certified disaster service worker, or sworn in, I guess, as they would say it. My focus is with the animals working at shelters, or, you know, large animal shelter, small animal shelter. And I can tell you here in Contra Costa, Lake County, Napa, Solano, Sonoma, and Butte County are all set up to be able to take in animals. Not all of the places have teams that go out to get the animals, but a lot of them have mutual aid to have that happen. So there's a lot going on. So that's really good with regards to knowing, you know, if you are going out with your animal, that a lot of places already have some kind of plan in place and what they're going to do for where you're going to go and where it is your animal can stay. So again, just like with the people, you want to keep in mind, the food that you want there, keeping your animals healthy. I think one thing you don't think about with regards to the humans is if one thing to keep in the kit with your animals is maybe already have a lost animal poster already made up. So if your animal takes off during the disaster that happens, you've got at least a poster ready to get copied and out there for people to help you find your animal. So there's an example of something that you can have in your bag. And what's really good is having a picture of you with that animal. There, you know, there are a lot of people, a lot of black dogs, black Labradors, you know, that are out there. Look for certain traits that are on your animal. You can always point those out, or at least be able to point them out when you try to go and search for your animal. It helps. Any distinguishing marks, always good to have. So I don't know if there were any questions, but again, the takeaways here being the pets matter because people matter. It's a good combination there in making sure we're taking care of the four-legged, and well, I guess if you think of birds, two-legged or winged animals as well. So what you could do is look at what local animal response programs that there are. And as Margaret has stated, you'll find out in future classes coming up here with your CERT response, what we do with regards to what forms are being filled out, what's happening, and what we all do. If you are interested in doing more with just the animals, you can look at taking some extra FEMA courses, maybe joining an animal rescue group. I think here in Contra Costa County, they have groups like ARF and stuff. At least that gives you animal handling experience, and especially working with animals that aren't familiar with you. So you can maybe get more comfortable yourself being around strange animals that are going from there. If you really want to get into it, then like I said, there's Contra Costa, what they call CART, a County Animal Response Team. So there's here in Contra Costa, but if you really want to get some, boots on the ground with some of the work, places like Napa, Butte County, Solano do a lot more responses than we do here in Contra Costa County. So they can really give you some of the training that you'd like to get to have. They're really good out there.
All right, thank you, Erica. Any questions anybody has about pet preparedness or the pets that we might encounter if we are helping somebody, helping a neighbor in a home?
Yeah, I have two things.
Hey, Brent.
Erica, thank you so much for your time. This is a fantastic presentation. The way you and Margaret were in sync was fantastic, by the way. Really appreciated that. In terms of the slip lead, I was looking at different ones, and they come in different diameters. Is there a recommended diameter that we should be looking at, or anything features for the slip lead?
I would say if you think you're going to deal with a lot of smaller animals, the 1/4 inch wide, the 1/4 inch round one would be fine. But usually a 3/4 inch one is pretty good to have. I have My leather one that I have is,
Mhm.
I think, about a 3/4 inch one that I use, but I have another one that's maybe almost 1 inch, and it's a flat braided one. So it's a little bit different. And I use that one a lot. I have carpal tunnel. So some of the regular leads, the leads that are out there bother my hands. I feel like I have a better grip with the leather or the braided ones that I have that work really well. So maybe if I'm available, what is it, Margaret, March 18th, I'll try to bring the different slip leads that
That'd be great.
I do utilize.
That'd be great,
that are
Erica.
out there. Mhm.
Thank
Brent,
you. I really appreciate the thorough answer. The second thing, when it comes to dealing with the animals, is there anything that we should ask that we don't know to ask? It's one of those things where I know it's not just when we deal with cats and dogs, you might be dealing with the birds, reptiles. I know in my area, there's also horse owners as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think, well, one thing we won't be doing is transporting horses. That is, the large animals are a completely different thing. So really the focus with our CERT team right now is just what we would call the small animals. So you're looking at the dogs, the cats, the pocket pets, the birds, that kind of stuff. Getting into horses and other large animal livestock, and that would include, like pigs and things like that. I could only recommend that the people understand and know that their animals, where it is they need to go if they're going to evacuate, that they have a plan in place. And hopefully most of those animals know how to be trailered. I know with the other counties that I do respond with, that is still a big problem because someone, the horse is out in their field the whole time. They've never had to really trailer them. The vet comes to them. They don't take him anywhere. So the first time this horse or donkey might be trailered is when there's a fire in the background. And that really takes some kind of skill to get those animals in. And then sometimes all you're doing is, if you're leaving that animal behind, you're making sure it just has food and water. And again, that documentation. And what happens is knowing what animal, and that's why documentation is important, because when animals are left behind, and even with the people, then those with the right experience are going in and they can either shelter in place with the animals, or you have the right evacuation teams that have the right training to be able to pull those animals out.
Erica, didn't you tell me
there's a lot of extra training?
One of the fires you activated in last year or the year before, there were cowboys that were specifically designated to go after livestock and in wildfire areas.
Well, when you get into more like large ranching, especially for cattle and things like that, you're looking at the Department of Agriculture that is pulling, that kind of thing out. And usually what they're doing is just trying to move the cattle or the herds from field to field, but more for the smaller ones I've dealt with, where we've had llamas, alpacas, we've had the pigs, and we've had the goats, the lamb, the sheep. I mean, we've had it, and it does take a certain kind of training to be able to bring those animals in. So I don't always work the evac team, but I do radio comms, and I work the large and small animal shelter. I do the intake. So I do a lot of the paperwork to help with people that are coming in and bringing in their animals.
So just to give everybody a general idea, in the event that in Walnut Creek, we had to have an evacuation, let's say due to wildfire, the city is going to attempt to set up a temporary evacuation point, which is a place where they have an intake of cars to tell people what resources, what locations, where they have to go, that kind of thing. When they have, if the shelter has to be set up, because now in these day and time, sometimes, a lot of people evacuating, they have somewhere else to go, but it's the people who don't have another place to go that end up in the temporary shelters that are set up, and the American Red Cross would come and help us with that. But in addition to that, Contra Costa County Animal Control, combined with CART, which is that Contra Costa County Animal Rescue Team, those people are going to come and they're going to help with the evacuation process. Erica and people who are part of Walnut Creek CERT who have a particular training and affinity with animal and animal rescue are going to band together, and they're going to help with those two other organizations to make sure that animals that come with their evacuated owner are well documented and are cared for within the capability that we set up. And in addition, as everyday CERTs, if we're on a search and rescue team, we just need to understand how to help the owner or the injured owner stay in contact with their pet, to make sure that we document so nobody loses their pet, and that their pets get to a holding area. Throughout Walnut Creek CERT, in our caches, we have some limited animal equipment, and our animals folks in Walnut Creek CERT have done a really good job of creating documentation, having extra things like bowls and leads and carriers. And so we would be likely there would be some consolidated area where that takes place, or two consolidated areas, and we'd be drawing on those supplies to the extent that we can. So just to give you a step back, when we talk about light search and rescue, we're going to talk about the rescue of humans, but we want to make sure that you understand the importance of preparing your pets for a disaster so it doesn't become a secondary problem.